So let me start by saying that this will most likely be a divisive, even controversial video, especially considering how today many parts of the world are more politically divided than ever. However, it's precisely because politics are so important today that it feels like the right time to talk about where One Piece falls on the spectrum, and the answer will most likely surprise you. Because from everything I've seen, many people have drastically differing views of what One Piece is trying to say about the right or the just system. I've seen people say that One Piece is fundamentally anti-capitalist, I've seen people argue that it's pro-libertarian, and really a lot of these views stem from people only seeing the side that they want to see, when in reality One Piece's stance on what an ideal system, or really what an ideal world would be, is far more nuanced than that. Now, longtime viewers know that a while back I did a video on the philosophy of One Piece, and in it I examined the ideals and moral truths that One Piece aims to communicate. The fundamental issue comes down to freedom versus authority, and One Piece makes it clear that both are necessary, yet both can be terrible when taken to their extremes. As with absolute freedom and no government, the weak will suffer at the hands of the strong. But on the flip side, a strong government can easily become controlling in the name of protecting people. And while I'd say 90% of that video holds up today, there was a point I got stuck at towards the end, which is what is the answer Oda is getting at? Even if not a realistic answer, what would an ideal dream world be like? What I landed on at the time was that Oda seems to be saying that an ideal world would be one where everyone has complete freedom, but where no one would abuse their freedom to impose their will on anyone else. But in retrospect, that answer just seems a little too weak to hold up. It's basically just saying that in an ideal world, everyone would be like Luffy. Even if we accept that the ideal world Oda seems to be getting at doesn't necessarily have to be realistic, it's kind of weak to just land on, well, everyone should just be a good person. Because now I've come to realize that a more blatant answer has been there all along, one that's been staring us in the face since chapter 1. And the reason this is about the politics of One Piece and not just more philosophy is because now I feel confident going a step further. If one's philosophy is more so the worldview one has, the sense of what values are more or less important, what is right or wrong, etc., then one's politics are the actual practical rules or systems that one believes should be set in place for society to flourish according to one's values and morals. And so with this video we're going to be going beyond the philosophy of One Piece, though I definitely recommend checking out that video right after this one, and instead talking about the actual ideal system it seems would exist according to One Piece's philosophy. Now to start with, I'm going to set 2 ground rules. Rule number 1, I'm not going to be promoting my ideas on politics in this video. This is my interpretation of what Oda is implying through One Piece, what an ideal world would be. If you feel that I show a clear bias, then definitely let me know in the comments below, but as it is, I'm going to try and stay as detached as possible and focus on themes of the story. Rule number 2, I'm going to stay away from describing things with definite, specific political ideologies put onto them. Meaning that if I'm explaining a specific concept we see in the story, I'm not going to explicitly classify it as, say, democratic socialism versus libertarian socialism, or pure libertarianism versus anarcho-capitalism, or anything like that. Firstly, because this video is for everyone, whether you're a political science major or you know nothing about politics. This is for all One Piece fans. For anyone less versed in political specifics, it may be easier for you to just start the video with this political compass in mind and make your own judgments as topics come up. The simplified version of the way this works is basically stuff that sounds more authoritarian is up and stuff that sounds more libertarian is down, meaning up supports a stronger government with more power and down supports less and less governmental control to the point of near zero. The x-axis is economics, so ideologies that are further left support the idea that the economy should be shaped to favor the majority of the people, and the idea that if some possess great wealth, such as more land than one needs to use, that's not good. Basically, further left is less hierarchy and more equality, and then further right means more so economic competition and the ability to climb the economic ladder based on merit. For the rest of this video, you can take what I'm saying and generally understand when something I'm talking about is more so up, down, left, or right. The second reason I'm not going to put specific labels on any of this is because I doubt Oda even has specific political ideologies in mind when he portrays certain concepts. It's more likely he's more so portraying general ideas of what he seems to believe is good. So again, generally just imagine what direction certain ideas sound like they should be on the compass. So to start with, let's talk about the various nations in One Piece and what Oda consistently depicts as the supposed right way that government and society should function in a nation. And here it is actually very easy to see a lot of the ideals that Oda holds as the most important, as there are many regimes in One Piece that are portrayed as blatantly good or blatantly bad, with good regimes consistently having similar merits, and bad regimes consistently having similar problems. And to be clear, here I'm going to be talking about the type of society that One Piece seems to portray brings the most good for the most people. I'm not actually talking about the whole picture just yet. There is more to it than this, but it's important to start with the basic idea of what type of government does One Piece depict, bringing about the most good for the most people. Who should run the government, what should the priorities and responsibilities of this government be to its people, and what would the ideal society look like? All in the context of this is the most good for the most people. Well, to start with, the somewhat obvious answer One Piece pushes is that the ideal government would be one that truly exists solely to help its people. It is made clear that the laws of a nation are worth nothing unless they are built on the ideals of kindness and sympathy. Anything less than this is clearly depicted to be a flawed foundation for a country. As such, it is implied that power needs to be in the hands of those who place the well-being of the people above all else, including themselves. At least this is what is shown through leaders such as Cobra and Riku. Now, while governments like Alabasta and Dressrosa have exemplary leadership, it should be noted that these nations are still run by monarchies. However, this is likely more so a product of One Piece being a period piece, so naturally there would be kings in this setting. Oda can show what a great leader should look like through certain kings, but obviously Oda isn't supporting the idea that monarchies are the best form of government, and rather we have seen multiple times that nations that go through great turmoil are better off when they elect their next leader themselves, as seen with Dalton in Drum Kingdom, and even with Riku and Dressrosa the second time around, with the people seemingly unanimously electing him back to the throne, even when he himself no longer believes he deserves it. So bottom line, the government should exist solely to help the people, and a democratically elected government seems to be the ideal, nothing too crazy here. Now, in terms of the actual priorities and responsibilities of the government, Oda seems to support the idea of a strong social safety net, with the state always taking care of those who need it. We see this with Cobra providing provisions for all Alabastans who are affected by the drought, with Oden creating the Paradise Farm which was meant to feed everyone in Kuri, with the story of Drum Kingdom and how healthcare should be widely available to everyone, with Wapol's greatest crime being withholding healthcare from his citizens. The government also clearly has a strong responsibility to use its militia to protect its citizens and to keep them safe, which was repeatedly called out during the Arlong Park arc. However, at the same time, Oda never supports the idea of a government with too much power, as even in a nation like Dressrosa that had a decently strong militia, it was made clear that the power should still be in the hands of the people, with Riku ultimately begging his people for help, rather than coercing them in any way. And of course, the idea of a strong social safety net is that even the most downtrodden members of society are taken care of by the government, as one of the biggest problems with the world government that is repeatedly shown is that it only helps those who have enough money to pay celestial gold. And really this goes towards the most important characteristic that Oda seems to promote in a society that would have the most good for the most people, which is equality. Over and over throughout One Piece we see the idea of class divides attacked, with the Celestial Dragon system, the Kingdom of Goa, and Wano all being major examples of imbalanced societies that need to be rectified. In an ideal society, characters seem to imply that there would be little to no hierarchy, with Dalton questioning the point of status in general. And Oda particularly seems to dislike the idea that some people can inherently be born into higher status than others, regularly portraying those who were simply born into an exalted place in society negatively. The repeatedly mentioned ideal of everyone being able to live under the same sun is primarily about race, but in the broader sense it is about the idea of equality for all, with everyone being able to equally enjoy what the world has to offer. So to sum up, on the surface level, the type of government and society that One Piece seems to imply would have the most good for the most people would be one where leaders are democratically elected and are truly subservient to the will of the people, where there is a strong social safety net to make sure everyone's basic needs are met, where the government protects the people and enforces laws to keep people safe, and where there is as little hierarchy or inequality in society as possible. On paper, this seems like it would bring the most good for the most people, but the problem is the word most. Is this a society for everyone? Where would someone like Luffy fit into a society like this? Where would all pirates, good or bad, fit into a society like this? Because despite the consistent implication that pretty much every single kingdom in One Piece would be better off if their society had a strong social safety net, if the government maintained order, and if there were little to no hierarchy, at the same time there is a completely different world that is also put on a pedestal throughout One Piece, for drastically different reasons. What has to be remembered is that the most important ideal in One Piece, without question, is freedom. Everything comes down to freedom in one way or another. And the society described in the previous section, a type of society that Oda certainly holds in high regard, is still ultimately not one that is completely about freedom. The priority is more so safety, equality, and well-being for all. In that type of society, the government is ultimately going to be laying down the law for people, and yes, generally the laws are going to be for the safety of the overall population. But there is no such government where laws can be so perfectly made that everyone is happy with them. In any government, you can find rules you don't agree with, even if those rules are catered towards bringing the most good for the most people. For example, we are shown that Wano has a strict isolationist policy. No one is allowed in or out. This law was put in place objectively for the safety of its people, as for a long time Wano suffered at the hands of outsiders. Being isolationist is probably safer for Wano overall. It's something the government clearly decided was for the good of the people, and really there only seems to be one person in the entire country who doesn't agree with this rule. But that's the point. Even a good government can't make decisions that make everyone happy. It can only try to make most people's lives better. And so no matter what, the very nature of laws put in place to do this are going to mean some loss of personal freedoms, and some people simply place greater value on these personal freedoms. The society Oda seems to portray as best for most people is clearly not something that literally everyone wants. There are still people like Odin, and the Straw Hats, and pirates in One Piece in general who are by nature not rule followers. They do not want some authority telling them what they can or can't do. For these type of people, who are willing to voluntarily choose a less safe world in favor of a more free world, the sea is their paradise. And this is the other type of world One Piece romanticizes. To be clear, what Oda depicts in most of the nations of the land we visit are more literal examples of just and unjust governments. On the other hand, the sea and the life of a pirate is more so a metaphorical representation of a different type of society. So, what are we shown? Well, while pretty much everywhere on land has governments of various kinds, on the ocean, and particularly in the Grand Line and the New World, there is a great age of pirates going on. On the sea, there are simply too many pirates for the Marines to control. As such, the sea reflects a world where the government has less control, and there is greater personal freedom. Similarly, the very essence of being a pirate means choosing maximum personal autonomy in the face of any sort of higher authority. And as such, there are a lot of things in the world of the sea that are actually portrayed positively, whereas in kingdoms on land they are portrayed negatively. On land we are shown the importance of an equal society without hierarchy, but at the same time this type of society would mean losing some degree of freedom to try and achieve higher status than others, whereas in the world of pirates we see the opposite. In the world of pirates, everyone is striving to reach the top of a metaphorical ladder. The strong rise up the ladder and the weak die. Here, the idea of striving for greatness and competing with other pirates to rise higher and higher in the world is something that is heavily romanticized. The word haki literally means ambition. Not to mention Luffy and many of the greatest pirates literally possess the disposition to stand above others. In the world of the sea, some pirates can become far greater than others, and this is never portrayed negatively as this is what you sign up for when you become a pirate in the first place, to join in this grand competition. A large part of this sense of hierarchy among pirates feels justified in the sea as opposed to how hierarchy among citizens is portrayed negatively on the land, because in the world of pirates it does not generally matter what status you held in life beforehand. How high you rise is based on your own merit. No one is born a Yonko. That status and power is earned. This free-form competition among pirates could also represent free economic competition to a degree. There aren't really regulations, it's dog eat dog, and everyone is okay with it. Both good pirates and bad pirates will participate in plundering and taking each other's gold. Luffy took from Moria after he defeated him, Whitebeard took from weaker pirates he defeated, both Roger and Whitebeard tried to take from each other. The Straw Hats have only just started fighting the Beast Pirates and they're already looting as they progress. Now, an important distinction here is that most of the pirates that are portrayed positively in this series do not loot from those who aren't also pirates. This is a big qualifier that I will discuss later in the video. And at this point I should also address Oda's views on money in general. Various arcs show us that there are many more important things in life than money. In Baratie, it's about how basic life necessities such as food are far more important than money. In Skypiea, it's about how friends are more important than money. In Dressrosa, it's about how peace is more important than money. Earning money is never put on a pedestal in One Piece, and it's repeatedly reiterated that there are many things more important than money. However, at the same time, Oda does also frequently reward the Straw Hats with money for their achievements, and he repeatedly makes it clear that they deserve the large quantities of gold that they earn. We see this at the end of Orange Town, Syrup Village, Skypiea, Thriller Bark, and Fishman Island. It's just that the crew will also regularly choose to spend some of their money on their friends rather than keeping it all for themselves, out of their own free will. Skypiea money was spent on a big party after Enies Lobby, Thriller Bark money was volunteered to free Kami, Fishman Island money was immediately used to help save the fishmen from Big Mom, and so on. It's the same way Whitebeard always gave back most of his treasure to help his village. As such, Oda's overall approach to money seems to be that first of all, there are more important things in the world than money. However, there is nothing inherently wrong with wanting more for yourself, or being rewarded with more money for what you achieve or earn. At the end of the day, if you're a good person, you will probably want to share what you earn out of your own free will anyway. So even in the world of pirates, Oda never seems to support a hardcore Ayn Rand type philosophy, but at the same time does portray the world of pirates as a world of competition overall, with the strong rightfully earning more than the weak, and having free choice of what to do with their earnings. So to sum up, the sea represents a type of society where there is extremely limited government control, high competition and ability to rise higher in the world based on merit, and overall emphasis on individualism. If you were to imagine the political compass again, this reflects ideologies that are going to be further down and to the right. But, and here's the big point that must be remembered, while Oda heavily romanticizes the pirate's life and the freedom of the sea in general, at the same time he makes it very, very clear throughout the series that this type of world is very, very dangerous and is not for everyone. This was spelled out from chapter 1. You can find greater freedom going out to sea and being a pirate, but at the same time you have to understand that you are leaving something behind, which is safety and security. The sea represents both freedom and danger. Similarly, a society that is, say, further down the political compass and further right would give you far greater personal freedom, but it's also going to be a much more dangerous society with very little safety net for those who meet hard times. And what's interesting is that for the citizens of the various nations in the One Piece world, Oda heavily promotes the importance of fairness for all. But at the same time, if you choose the sea, if you choose a world with less order but greater freedom, if you choose the pirate's world, then from here on out you must accept all the burdens that come with greater freedom. In the world of pirates, there is no such thing as fair or unfair, and this is something that all pirates accept, good or bad. You will never catch someone like Luffy or Zoro complaining that something unfair happened to them. They accept the inherent unfairness of their world and place value in being able to overcome that. No scene better depicts this than Zoro's speech to Chopper. Chopper is taken from the Straw Hat crew and begins to cry about how he didn't want this, until Zoro outright tells him that it was his choice to leave behind the safety of his island and come out to the world of the sea, and that in a pirate's world, tears won't get you anywhere. This is why we see Luffy will be so outraged at any sort of unfairness that average citizens like Tama experience, but is unfazed by a pirate like Chopper's tears. Even when it comes to saving his own brother, Ace, Luffy is fully aware that he doesn't need to rush to save Ace because Ace chose the life of a pirate as well. Luffy does simply ultimately choose to do so because he wants to save his brother, and Ace similarly attempts to turn Luffy away by reminding him of what it means to be a pirate, because that is what it means to be a pirate, to choose a life of freedom even if it means putting your life on the line. So taking everything into account, I think there is an extremely interesting idea of what a dream world would look like that can be extrapolated from everything we see in One Piece. To start with, let's go back to basic politics. Real-world politics usually come down to differing values that swing people in different directions on the compass. Common disagreements are how much power should a government have, and how much responsibility does it have towards providing a strong social safety net. On the other hand, how important is personal freedom? What freedoms are or aren't okay to restrict in the name of the well-being of society? Similarly, how accepting are people of levels of hierarchy that may develop in society versus how much do people value competition? So if we look at the One Piece world, what are we shown? Well, no matter how romanticized the world of pirates is, it is made clear that this is not a world for everyone. It simply can't be by its very nature. The world that is best for most people is a world where everyone is equal, where there are no big class divides, where the government's only priority is taking care of you, making sure your needs are met, and where there are laws that maintain order, peace, and stability. However, despite One Piece implying that such a nation would be best for most people, the idea is that for those who want a world with less order and authority but greater freedom, then one should be able to voluntarily step into a society with fewer rules and extremely minimal governmental control, where you have greater freedom to do what you want, where you can compete, rise above others, and gain more for yourself. By the way, that's not really something that exists in the real world today. There is no nation where there is truly extremely limited government and extreme personal freedom and competition. And again, Oda is never even implying such a society would be good for everyone, simply that those who would want to live in a world like that should be able to. As such, One Piece's implied answer to what would an ideal world look like is a unique balance of ideals. There is no single type of society that would be perfect for everyone. Something like that simply can't exist, as people have different values that would clash in the same society. But the simple solution seems to be that a dream world would be one where there are two worlds with different values, and you can decide which world you want to live in based on your own values. There should be an orderly, fair society with a democratically elected government that truly represents the people, that provides a strong social safety net and also prevents class divides and inequality. At the same time, for those who do not want a government dictating what they can or can't do, for those who want maximum personal freedom, who want to compete to climb higher in the world and gain what they can based on merit, and are willing to accept the difficulties and danger that come with this type of society, there should be a society for them as well. And interestingly, in the broader sense, ultimately One Piece seems to imply that freedom is the most important ideal anyway, as what is more important than debating which of these two worlds is better, or which is right or wrong, is the freedom to be able to choose which one you want to live in. But, and here's the last really important point, the One Piece world is very clearly not an ideal dream world just yet. That's what the story is about. If we look at both the worlds, the world of the land and the world of the sea, and keeping in mind what they both represent, we can see that there are two great problems that afflict the land and sea respectively. The world of the land does have ideal nations like Dressrosa, Alabasta, and so on, but many other nations are clearly not like this, and ultimately inequality and unjust governmental rule will always persist across the many nations of the world so long as the world government remains the way it is. A key point that is made is that there is no inherent problem with the concept of a world government. It is the fact that the way it is right now, with the Celestial Dragons at its helm, the world government can never be an ideal government. Now, as I've talked about in previous videos, a common theme in One Piece is that only through destruction can there be rebirth. As such, much like we see in Drum Kingdom and Dressrosa, first an existing government must be toppled, only this time on a global scale, and only from there can a new government rise that is democratically elected, that does truly serve as the will of the people, that does not abuse its military power, that does not discriminate between those with money or those without, that takes care of the weak and the less wealthy, where everyone can be equal and live in harmony. So if an unjust, overly authoritarian government is what must be rectified to fix one part of the problem, then what is the other problem? Well, the fact that there are those in the world of the sea who attack those on the land. This is something that I mentioned earlier in the video, and this is the big distinction that One Piece makes. Oda never suggests that pirates fighting, conquering, and taking from other pirates is bad. In fact, it's only natural. Everyone does it, it's not about good or bad, it's just the world of pirates, this is what you sign up for. Again, metaphorically, this is like voluntarily choosing to live in a society with minimal governmental regulation and maximum competition. It's implied that the problem is when this affects those who do not choose to live in this type of society, which is why Oda portrays pirates who attack citizens of the land so negatively. Those who are not part of the world of pirates deserve to live in a safe, fair society, which again is why Luffy will be outraged at the idea of pirates attacking non-pirates, but will happily welcome competition among pirates. Interestingly, even among the supposed worst generation, only Kid is ever said to have hurt civilians, and even then it sounds more so over the issue of dreams than real plundering like Pinkbeard, for example. And so now consider the two-headed problem that the conflict of One Piece is built around. There cannot be an ideal government for the nations of the land until the Celestial Dragons are defeated and the world government is reformed. On the other hand, the sea and the world of pirates cannot be considered ideal so long as quote-unquote evil pirates such as Blackbeard, Kaido, and Big Mom exist who gain power and wealth at the expense of the innocent people of the land, rather than exclusively from competition with other pirates. And so the two major aspects of the conflict of One Piece that need to be resolved seem to be that the great evil pirates, Blackbeard, Kaido, and Big Mom, need to be defeated, and the Celestial Dragons need to be dethroned so that the world government can be reformed, with most likely a much more just, democratically elected leadership. Only then would the ideal world be created, where the citizens of the land get to live under a just government, while the world of pirates has been cleansed, with a better generation of pirates who do not harm the citizens of the land rising up. By the end, the One Piece world will be a true representation of what an ideal world in reality should look like. The government should be democratically elected, take care of its people, eliminate inequality, and so on. At the same time, people should be free to choose a different type of society entirely, with minimal government, less safety and security, but more freedom and competition, so long as this other society does not negatively affect the people of the previous society. And that is the balance of political ideologies that One Piece seems to suggest is the answer. If you enjoyed this video, then definitely like, share, and subscribe. And you can join my Patreon to help me continue making videos like this in the future. Benefits include voting on future video topics and access to my Extended Thoughts podcast. Special thanks to patrons A. Abazi, Crimson Crystal, Felix Fourcolor, Lorenzo Linares, Salam Al-Arak, Sebastian C., Simon Fines, Spike SP, Tarsh Sri, Wisdom Manari, Hours Blank 13, Andy Tameli, Agam, Behanort, Caleb Eli Bicknell, Chris Kressner, Cool Ice, Danieru, Dark Eternal, Dice, Dustin Fool, Frank Cervantes, Felix Tangue, Garrett Clark, Hector Lange Sanchez, Isaiah Rainwater, JL, Jarrett, Joaquim Torneas, John Runner Melton, Jordan, Juan Perret, Laura, Lun, Lena, Luis Aguirre, Melanie G, Menage, Michelle Dreher, Mr. Pike, Mo Musa, Mohammed Al-Nayadi, Moses Williams, Oliver H, Patron, Ray Easy, Rob Williams, Rohan Chug, Rohanite, Ryan Gerada, Savvy, Siddharth Vadnerker, Sir Pralegod, Sociald, Sriracha Limes, Stevie Wonder, The Boy 13, Vince T, Wiase, Zawos, Yihan Zhang, Bean Bean, Inistor, Last Tour, Ravine, Sin 7H37IC, Ace Gold D, Amalite 2609, Davey Lambert.